Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we are talking about physics and how we can use physics in our game. So remember the default scene we had from previous videos, okay? We are going to develop something here. So we are going to develop an experiment, and that experiment will teach us how physics work in Unity. So let's start by setting up our experiment. Let's go to Game Object, 3D Object, and let's create a plane. A plane is sort of a surface, and you can only see it from one side, so it's basically just a face. So this can represent our floor. So let's put it here so we can see with our camera. We can adjust the camera position to better see the plane better, but we can just put it on 0, 1 and -10, so like this, and we can grab our plane and put on 0, 0, 0. Maybe let's put it a little like this, -4 on the Z coordinate, and that's our plane. Now let's add a cube, and we have our cube right here. We can use the V key, and you can see that. Let's focus on our cube. So you can see here that if we press V, we get this the coordinates, the axis, snap on each of the vertices, and with this we can actually put our cube on exactly another vertex. So our plane has more than one face, one mesh, so we can see the grid, and we can actually put our cube where we want. So we have our cube there, and let's raise the cube a little. Okay, so we have a cube. The cube is composed of 1, 2, 3, 4 components, and the plane is composed of the same components, but with the difference that we have here a mesh collider, and here it's a box collider. The difference between those is that the box collider is always a box. So the let's click on here in this light here. So below the scene tab, we have shaded. On the side we have 2D, so we can just toggle it to the view of our game. We don't want that. And then we have a light, which is to turn off all lights or on, so we can see the difference. So this actually helps us see better our cube. So you can see that there's a green line on the edges of our cube, and that's our box collider boundary. You can see that the size of this boundary is 1, 1, 1, which means it will fit the cube, but if we raise the X, you can see that the boundaries change. So what I'm gonna do is let it stay, but you see that the box collider always works like a box, like a not a cube, but you can see the idea. It's a box. But the mesh collider, it's different. What the mesh collider does, it will analyze the mesh. And from previous videos we know the mesh is the set of triangles that compose our surface. So here we have some triangles. So if we come here to the snipping tool, so I can draw here, we know that here's a vertex, here's a vertex, here's a vertex, and here's another one, and this does something like this. So here we have triangle, and here we have another triangle, triangle A, triangle B, and the set of triangles composes the mesh. And what Unity will do with the mesh collider is analyze all those meshes and apply a collider to each one of them, or a collider that fits all of them. And well, that works for more complex objects than the plane, but the plane uses that because, well, it's a sort of one-dimensional surface. But we could also use a box collider with our plane and have the Y size of it to be real thin, like 0.01, and you can see here that it's real thin, but it has depth. So, and our plane collider doesn't have any depth. So let's just hit Control Z, so 111, and the same for our plane, which doesn't have the size because it will actually analyze in almost real time. I don't know if they do it in real time. I think they don't, because that's a little bit heavy, but I'm not sure. But so we have a mesh collider and a box collider. So now let's click play, and nothing happens. Why? It should, because, well, in a realistic world, if a box is flying in the air, it needs to fall, right? And it should have done like this and stayed here, not pass it. Okay, so this actually is normal in Unity, because we are not telling exactly we are not telling Unity that this box is a solid object. Well, it is solid, but we are not telling Unity to use it as a realistic physic object, but we are going to do so right now. By that, we need to add a new component, and this component is under physics, not physics 2D, physics. And we have our colliders here. We have a box collider, capsule collider, we have the mesh collider, a sphere collider for spheres, of course, but we are adding a rigid body. And this is exactly what is going to say, look, Unity, this is a solid object, and it needs to behave like one, and it needs to behave realistically, and we say use gravity with this mass and all that. So we are telling Unity this is a real object, this is to do a precise physics simulation, and please handle that for us. So let's just test it out and see what happens. And as you can see, it falls, and it also does a little bump. So it's pretty real, right? We can actually change some of the properties, like the mass and the drag. And the drag is basically the resistance of the object to move or to rotate, but we are letting those there. But if we turn off use gravity, it actually doesn't fall. Okay, so there's that. Then we have some constraints, which says that it will ignore some axes for position and rotation, but we don't need that right now. We just need to have a physical object. Okay, so these are colliding because these two are colliding because this one has a box collider and a rigid body, and this one has a collider. But now let's turn off the collider for our plane. Remember when I talked about colliders? If you don't have a collider, Unity doesn't know that that object is supposed to be solid. So what happens is this. In case you missed it, let's watch it again. Focus on the cube. It just passes through the surface because there's no collider. For Unity, this is just it's nothing. It's just a white surface that is some kind of weird material that lets things pass through and all that. But this is not realistic, of course. But you can do this if you want. Like, imagine you have a secret passage on your level and you want to draw it like this, but you don't want a collider on it so the player can pass. We can use this. We can just turn off the collider. We can also pretty much remove it, but we don't really need to because we might want to use it later. But let's re-enable, and you can see that it jumps. It collides. So we can actually use another object. We have a sphere here, and let's hit play. Doesn't happen anything because nothing happens because the sphere is not a normal object per se. So we add a rigid body. Let's see how it reacts. It falls. Oh, and it rolls, and it falls again. And it will do so until the infinite. we can actually play with this, and like this we can rotate a little bit. Let's see what happens. Oh, let's turn off turn off use gravity for the rigid body of our cube, so that okay, yeah, we turn off gravity, but as two rigid bodies interact with each other, they apply forces to one another, and it's actually a pretty cool simulation. And you can see that our cube just flies away because there's no gravity, but if we enable gravity now, it falls. That's pretty cool. I believe we can use iSkinematic to test what we want exactly. So we can use it as a ramp instead of it just flying away. iSkinematic determines that we are responsible for the forces that are applied to our object. Okay, so let's say we want this cube to stay here, but if we click on it, we want it to move or jump or do anything. We need to be the ones who add some force to it. We say, hey Unity, add some force to this object when we click on him, but that work needs to be done by us and not the engine itself. That's also useful, and we will probably use that in the future. But now I leave you with this demonstration, this physics demonstration, that well, it saves a lot of work, because we just have to specify colliders, where we have to specify the rigid body properties like mass, drag, angular drag, gravity and all that, and Unity does the rest for us. That's pretty cool. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.